but in particular, one of my jobs was to provide the weather forecast to parents when they had breakfast, and the day would be theirs to determine. And that morning, probably sometime about 1992, the weather forecast was for 70 knots. 70 knots, that's a big number. And people who are familiar with the ocean basically really they take notice when the forecast is 70 knots. So my job was to report this weather forecast every morning to True Father, and he would decide if we were going to go fishing on land or we'd be in the boats. Well, I gave him the forecast, 70 knots coming out of the east, gale, and then up to a storm warning. And he nodded his head and said, let's go. So I was thinking, how am I, as his driver, going to be able to handle 70 knots with the Messiah sitting right behind me? Anyways, we went out to a place called Cape Chiniac, which is one of his favorite places to fish. And we were there, certainly, through the morning, through the afternoon, and the winds began to come up. And so, dutifully, I carried on my duties there, and then there was about 5 or 6 of us in the boat. We were alone that particular evening, and it was darkening and finally became pitch black, and we were coming home. And home is about 25 miles from where we were across the Bay of Kodiak, Chiniac Bay actually they call it. So what happened was that I had instruments, depth, and the radar, all kinds of things in front of me, and we started out. And those of you who've been on boats, when there's a wind and it's behind you, it's called the following sea. So we were traveling up as fast as the wave conditions, and the waves became quite high. And we came in, and finally, with the waves right behind us, and as big as they were, I began to get scared. And my experience was driving. I kept thinking I had a Messiah in the boat. I absolutely cannot make a mistake. And so we were there alone and driving, and I began to go like this because I was losing control of the boat somewhat. And as I was standing there driving, I felt this arm around my back, holding me. And I looked to my left, and Father was standing right next to me, humming holy songs. And I thought, where am I gone? Is this heaven? And there he was. He was settling me down, just holding me tight, settling me down. And so I regained control of the boat, and Father went back to sit down again, and we made it in just fine. But in a matter of speaking, all of us are in the same position sometimes. What do we do? We're fearful of making a mistake. So God's way is to coming over and holding us spiritually to provide strength and direction and to go. So that night, I experienced that. I've never forgotten it. I've only actually told this story a few times because some things you want to hold close to your heart, and in the proper time be able to share it. So I share it with you. Sometimes you might be in a situation where it feels like you can't make it. But you will. Because we're not alone. Heaven is with us. God is with us. God will provide. Remember that, and it will come to pass. So I'm grateful to be with my wife and to share this story with you. But mostly it's thanks to our true parents for staying with us no matter what.